talking is important.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, my name is Matt Kelderman. I'm the lead agent on the DFW team. I've been with her for almost 3 years in January. So did Project U with Miguel and all those guys. So, you know, business has been really good here in DFW. I know you guys are, I don't know what the market's like where you're at, but there's a lot of opportunity here in DFW through a lot of different lead sources. So I've been able to try out a bunch of different stuff and discard certain things and double down on other ones. So, you know, and I want this to be interactive. So at any point too, if somebody has questions or whatever, just unmute yourself and jump in. I have no issues stopping down or digging deeper on something. I'm a high I on the disc, so I can talk your face off if that's what you want. So I'm just going to start out with what I do from a lead generation perspective and kind of tell you what the, I don't know, the evolution of that was and some, you know, mistakes and successes I had in there. So a lot of my business now comes from about 4 different sources, right? A lot of agent referrals, which is something I've cultivated through Facebook groups. You guys get a few of those in your area that we tag people in as well. Client referrals have started picking up in the past couple of years for me. I'm now about 8 years in. So you're starting to get a lot of those people who bought with you earlier in your career selling. So again, those are 2 of my lead sources that have taken me a while to build up. But those do a lot of heavy lifting for me. I also work expireds at a really high level, as well as my Boomtown leads. And I think for you all, those are probably the more realistic pipeline filler type of stuff that you can implement immediately while you're building out some of these more niche type of lead generation stuff. So has anybody on the call like really ever tackled expireds and had any success with them or got your butt kicked by them, or has anybody messed with those at all?
No.
There, you know, and again, I don't know how many of them you guys have, and I don't know if you're in kind of a, holy phone ringing. I don't know if you guys are in like in a more of a vacation style type of area, if there's a lot of expires. We're getting a lot of canceleds right now too. So there's a lot of opportunity with those. Here's the few thing about expires. I think whether you work in Dallas, where it's a place where people live every day, or you live in more of a vacation place like where you guys are at, or even, you know, the Ocean City team up in Maryland with Joel and them. The key to going after expireds, it starts with your scripting and your ability to have conversations, but it really, your success is all going to come down to your ability to have empathy for the person on the other line. If you do decide to tackle cancel and expireds, be scripted in the sense that you need to know what you're talking about, and you need to be able to understand your value, and you need to be able to pick apart their previous listing and tell them how you're going to do it better. Like, that's the real estate agent in you. But the reality is, if you're just going in hardcore sales guy with the majority of expireds, a lot of them just don't want to hear it, right? They just got their butt kicked by the market. They just had another real estate agent promise them a bunch of stuff that they couldn't deliver on. So if expireds are going to be something you're going to tackle, I would say definitely have that. Don't be afraid to be honest with them, and don't be afraid to tell them, like, you know, look, I'm really sorry. Unfortunately, there's a lot of real estate agents out there who probably shouldn't be doing this. And I know you have no more reason to trust me than you have to trust the last guy who told you he was going to do a great job. But here's what I can do that's different. And then you start laying out all your real estate stuff, right? But if you're not a natural hardcore, just go after people salesperson, I think you might get eaten up by expireds a little bit if you try to just tackle them strictly like business. For sale by owners, do you guys have a lot of those in your area? We have a bunch right now because the market's hot and everybody thinks they can sell their own home. But for sale by owners, honestly, if you just treat those like pre-expireds, right? You're really just trying to build a relationship with those people for the inevitable time when they don't sell their house, because they're probably not going to be able to. I think those are 2 really great listing lead sources that you can go after immediately in most markets. Boomtown and Circle Prospecting are where all of my cold business comes from, though. All the stuff we've been talking about, I kind of have systems set up for. My Boomtown and my Circle Prospecting, or my listings, are the 2 things where I get the most business that I didn't know existed prior to picking up the phone, right? So, one, understand that any leads that are coming in through Boomtown, Facebook, Google, whichever type of lead sources you guys are getting, those leads are going to require a higher touch process, right? You're not going to convert those first call most times. It's going to take you a little bit of nurturing, maybe some time over time, right? Like, You just need them to be in your system for a little bit. I am executing a contract this morning for 950 that is a 2.5-year-old lead that, if I'm being honest, I probably shouldn't have, because the whole first year he was in my database, I only sent him one email, which he didn't open. And it's just dumb luck that he didn't float away and get with somebody else. But it was because my follow-up later was much better. I was able to convert him, and he just happened not to buy in that space. But I have a lot more stories of people that I didn't set proper follow-up on because I thought they were, terrible leads or whatever. And then you don't set any follow-up, and then, you get the motivation to call them 6 months later and they actually bought, or they're already working with somebody and they're out looking. So, so make sure if you do anything with your internet leads, it's just setting good follow-up and taking good notes. I cannot tell you as a new agent how important it is to take good notes from your phone calls. So I've got, what you can't see around me is these are all just notes. Now these have all been entered in, but each one of these is a different client. Every time I get on the phone with somebody, I get a completely fresh piece of paper and I scratch down every little thing. Now, all of that may not go in my Boomtown, but the highlights do. For instance, that deal that I'm executing today, I reconnected with him last September because I had a conversation with him in February of 19, and he told me that they were about to have a baby, so they wanted to wait. So when I reached back out, the first line of my text message was, "Hey, Charles, Matt Kelderman, I hope everything's going well. How's the new baby?" Right? It immediately gives me like real validity, because how would I know that? And it anchors me to a previous conversation that I can take it back to. So I don't have to go into every single conversation starting over and trying to reestablish rapport and relationships. And I'll tell you, I can sit here and talk to you about lead generation sources all day long. And that's great. And I hope none of you find this discouraging. But the reality is, there are very few lead generation sources that are going to pay you in the next 30 days. Almost everything you're doing is for paychecks 90 to 120 days out. So while you're talking to this guy today, understand that if you don't set follow-up, you getting all excited about logging in a new lead into CTE, or a new appointment into CTE, or a new nurture into CTE. Like, that doesn't mean anything if you don't set any follow-up and you think you just snagged that lead because you had a decent conversation with them on a Wednesday, right? You've got to set follow-up. The drip campaigns in Boomtown are really amazing to establish contact with those internet leads, meaning use them in order to get somebody to respond to you. But as soon as somebody starts responding to you and you have a phone conversation or a text message conversation with them, they kind of need to go on a custom task, right? So every time I have a lead, and I'll stop here in a second for any questions, but anytime I have a lead that comes in that I have a conversation with, I'll set just a custom follow-up. And it doesn't just say follow-up. It'll say call, email, text, whatever it is. I don't know if I can share my screen with you guys. Let me see if I can. No, I can't, because I'm not the host. But I just set a custom follow-up. So I'd set call, and it'd be like, right, like call Marco and talk to him about whatever he told me. And I set it for a very specific time. I also have my lead generation divided up into days. So I do expireds every day, but I have most of my tasks that I set up for people. So if I knew I needed to call Marco in a month and it was just kind of an ambiguous month, I'm going to set that for either Monday or Friday, because those are my two lightest days in my schedule. So I set all of my follow-up for Mondays and Fridays. And you know what that means over time? It means when I log into Boomtown on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, those are going to be really light follow-up days, because I'm not setting any personal follow-up. It's just going to be my automated follow-up that maybe Boomtown's reminding me of, right? Some stragglers. And I'm going to know that on Mondays and Fridays, I need to hit my lead generation early. And then I spend the rest of my day doing my follow-up. And some days when you get a big database, those days are a bit of a beating. But I know every Monday and Friday, I'm having warm, productive conversations. And the reason I like to do that is because on Mondays, I can set appointments for later in the week, right? And on Fridays, I can set appointments for the weekends. So it just happens to work out with my calendar. So again, that's just another way to make your lead generation, because lead generation and lead follow-up are the same thing, guys. We emphasize a lot of lead generation because that's the model, and you need to be taught that. But this is the perfect chicken and the egg situation. If you don't have leads, you don't have anything to follow up with. So I understand why you have to do the lead generation, but lead generation is the part of the task that gets you the information. It's not what gets you the business. The follow-up is what converts the business. So you need to take that just as seriously as your lead generation and have some structure to it for sure. So, okay. That's a lot of stuff. Anybody have any questions or anything about that? Kind of what we're talking about or anything you want to chime in with?
The Boomtown.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not very familiar with Boomtown. I've heard of it before. I'm assuming it's a paid program,
Yes. So
and it
it's
sends
a
you
CRM, yeah.
leads.
Well, so it doesn't send you leads. So think about, so your CRM is just your client relationship manager, right? Boomtown, Command,
Command.
um, Lion Desk, right? Like I use Boomtown
Okay.
kind of generically.
I use Command. Does Command have something like that?
Command has this stuff too, right? Because what we're
Okay.
talking about, essentially what we're talking about, the leads that I'm talking about, they're just Facebook ads that you're running ads
Okay.
through Command,
Okay,
right?
I got you.
Yeah. And the reason I say, I guess, and I should have clarified that, I kind of got on a roll. One of the important things to understand is like Boomtown is getting the same Facebook leads that you can get from Command. We actually get our Facebook leads, we run them through Command and feed them into Boomtown just to manage the relationship, because Command does a really great job of getting affordable Facebook leads. Right?
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
before you guys start running your own Facebook leads, go to YouTube University. All right. Like, go and learn how to do this. They're not incredibly hard, but the problem that a lot of people make when running Facebook ads or whatever is they just end up setting up like some generic template that everybody else sets up. And the ad copy is what matters, right? There's a reason that McDonald's and Coca-Cola still have a 50% of their budget goes to marketing. You know those brands, but they still spend a bunch of, you need to understand the message that you're putting out and what we call the ad copy. But you know, there's a bunch of different ways to do that. I won't dive too deep, but you can go to other people's Facebook business pages and see the ads they're running. You can. So if you want to just go see what other ads people are running, just to get an idea of stuff that might look good, you can figure all that stuff out. But just go to YouTube and search, and you can find all that. But the important thing is, Marco, is like when that lead comes in through whatever, even if it's an open house, right? Who cares what the lead source is? Once it comes into Command and you start working with it through Command, right? They need to have some kind of customized follow-up, right? Anytime you've met somebody in person, an automated drip campaign's probably not going to convert them unless you've just written the dopest campaigns that have ever existed, right? And that's just probably not worth your time. So did that answer your question?
Yes, it answered that question. I'm interested in, so you said YouTube University got what, Facebook ads or something kind of
Yeah.
thing?
So I
Just to
mean,
get,
and YouTube University is just me just telling you, go to YouTube, put in the search bar,
okay,
whatever you're trying to find out, and watch other people do it.
okay.
That's literally how I do everything. I changed an alternator on a Toyota 4Runner a couple of weeks ago, and I just had the video on YouTube in front of me, right?
That's right.
And I think we forget that we have so many of these free educational sources like that we don't need to wait for somebody to get us an answer. And you'll learn really fast how to do these things. They're not hard, because here's the thing: is Facebook and Google, they want you to make money off their ads. You know why? Because then you'll go buy more ads from them. They don't. So a lot of their stuff is intuitive once you get it up and running.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you use Boomtown? You circle in with Boomtown?
Boomtown's a CRM I use. I will tell you guys, I close about 60 deals a year, and I share Boomtown with some other agents. Boomtown is not necessary for an individual agent. One, okay. it's about $800 to $1,000 a month. So it's not, okay. And again, it does some stuff that you guys don't need to be able to do, right? Like I can send out 250 bulk text messages at one time, or I can upload the entire expired list, put them on a drip campaign, and send them all a text message. Like I can email, like for instance, the other day, I did a text message circle prospecting blast, and I sent out 900 text messages, right? Like you can't do that with Command. It just overwhelmed the system. But you also rarely need to send out 900 text messages if you're an individual agent, right? Right. We have a database of 50,000 leads that we're hitting all the time. So we need something that's like a little bit juicier, right?
Yes.
Command is a great resource for the management part of the system, right? There's some stuff that they're working on, but for managing your clients, Command is just as good as anything that you're going to pay for. If you guys wanted to pay for something, Lion Desk is like $30 a month, but take a look at it, do a free trial, see if you like it. Don't start, and this is just a slight side note because it has to do with lead generation. Don't start CRM hopping all the time, right? And this is really easy to do. You'll change your CRM because somebody calls you and you're like, oh, this has got this thing that's going to save my business. Guys, if automation was the only thing that you needed in your business, Amazon and Zillow would put you out of business in 2 minutes. It's the relationship part is why you are here. Don't try and automate yourself out of the business. It is not what you want to do, right? So embrace the fact that you still need to stay in contact with these people more than just through text messages and emails. So I say that to say, having a seasoned database and having them all in one CRM over a long period of time starts to have inherent value of its own. Because 3 years from now, you know, Marco and Chuck can go in their CRMs and look at those and look at conversations that they had with somebody 2 years ago, and then go back and be like, man, all right, how do I re-engage with this person? I've got all this data on them. What do I need to say to bring them back into my world? And when you start thinking about your database like that, you start putting really important leads in your database, and you start leaving out all the trash that we put in at first because we just want something to do. And then ultimately we get burnt out, and then, you know, we either, you know, we quit altogether, or, you know, it's just discouraging. So find a CRM that you like and then just roll with it and learn everything you can about that. But if Lion Desk and Command, between those two, you can feel comfortable for the first couple of years of your career that you're not going to need anything more than either one of those. So just dive deep on whichever one of those that you're going to use.
Do you guys, so you guys, do you pay for leads?
Well, yes. So like the Facebook and the internet leads. So we don't do any Zillow or Realtor.com, and that's not because everybody hates Zillow. It's just, honestly, they're really expensive and you can get cheaper leads yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So mostly Facebook and Google pay-per-click. So Google PPC is Google pay-per-click, and then Facebook ads. I won't do a Facebook course on this. And honestly, this is not me trying to sell you anything, because this is free. If you guys go to toreacademy.com, TORE, it's a coaching program that me and 2 other agents run. It's completely free. It's just part of our podcast. If I'm being completely candid, we use it as a recruiting tool to talk to other agents. And the stuff that we're giving away for free isn't stuff you couldn't find out yourself. We just put it in one easy place. There's a video in there, my business partner, Brian, showing how he runs Facebook ads. And then if you guys, and again, another shameless plug, if you guys want to join our real estate group, it's just called The Only Real Estate Group we're being a part of. We go live in there every Monday, and you can ask questions. And Brian last week literally talked about like the resources he used to learn about Google pay-per-click. And Brian's not some genius. He's a creative writing major, right? But he's getting leads for like $2.30 a piece, which is really cheap for online leads. Google pay-per-click specifically. So anyways, so I
for expireds.
What's
for
that?
Expireds, what do you do with expire? How do you get those from the MLS?
Yeah, so here's the thing is, you can get the expireds from the MLS, but you need to get the data and the phone numbers from somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
So RedX, RED, letter X, is a good resource for data. I use LandVoice right now. You could also use Mojo and just buy their expired data. I will tell you guys, don't buy a dialer system. Those automatic dialers, unless you are just a phone calling animal and that is how you are going to run your business and you are going to cold call every single day. And don't lie to yourself about this, right? If that's not your bit, don't try and make it your bit, because the dialer A will eat you alive if you're not ready for it. And it's an unnecessary expense. In the days where, I mean, I've gotten 3 calls while we've been on here, and 2 of them have said spam risk, right? Your number's just going to get flagged over time. And I think there's a delay in the pickup. Just hand dial the numbers. It's going to be slower going, but unless you're just trying to mow through thousands of numbers a year or a month, I just don't think it's necessary, right? But buy their expired data. And realize this too, guys, I want to say something about leads. When you pay for this data, only about 40% of it's going to be right? Don't get discouraged about that. It just move through it and understand this is just a numbers game. Nobody's going to be so astronomically better that you should be paying hundreds of dollars more a month for data. Zillow's leads are no better than Facebook's leads. There are higher intent leads, right? There are leads that are higher intent, and that's what matters. But if you have a good phone number and you have a good email address, the lead is as good as it's going to get. And if you're telling yourself anything other than that, you're just trying to convince yourself of your own inadequacies. And I'm just going to be honest about it. If you have good data and they end up buying a house with somebody else, either you guys didn't connect, which is fine, or your follow-up was off. It wasn't the lead. because the lead doesn't know and or care how long they've been in your database, Zillow's database, anybody else's database, right? It's your follow-up over time and your ability to build a relationship with them that's going to convert that lead. So if you're like, man, I was emailing that guy for 2 years and he bought with somebody else. Yeah, because you were emailing him for 2 years. Have you ever bought anything from a series of emails you've gotten? Hell no, right? Like you haven't. So why would anybody else make the largest purchase of their life because you sent them some emails every month, right? Like it's just, that's not how you're going to convert business, right? It's a good supplement to a real relationship though. So don't allow the automation. I will tell you, if you want to send something really great every month to a seller, and I tell people this all the time when I'm trying to get their data, when I'm circle prospecting. So I'd be like, hey, Marco, I really appreciate taking the time today. I'd love to get your email address. Look, I promise you I'm not going to spam you with a bunch of crap, but I would like to be able to send you the sold homes in your neighborhood every month so you can keep an eye on the market, right? And that sounds like a really generic thing that all real estate agents have said, but here's what you do. You now have Marco's address and his email address, and you go and legitimately on your property alert, right? However because you can set up property alerts for sellers too, folks. It's not just for buyers. And you set up a property alert for them in the MLS or through Command or however you're sending properties to people. And it's just their neighborhood. It's just their subdivision. It's not the whole city. It's not the whole zip code. It's streets and homes that they would recognize. And then you title that sold homes near 123 Main Street. And then whatever, semicolon or colon, courtesy of Matt Kelderman. And now guess what they get every month? Something that they're going to open because it's homes that have sold near them. And it has your name and your branding on it every single month. And then every few months you call them and just check in. And if they want to talk about housing, you talk about that with them. And you can see every single month when they open that. And they're never going to unsubscribe from getting the sold homes in their neighborhood. That's a perfect monthly touch for a seller. If you have their home address and their email address, every seller in your database should be getting that. Every single one. I know in our MLS, you can see when people open their emails. Through our CRM, you can see that. The same thing with Command. You can see when people open those property alerts. And that's a really great way to stay in contact with them. But if you've got the trinity of information, phone number, email address, and home address, that's as good as a lead gets, folks. There's nothing else they can give you that could keep you from selling their house. So if you have those 3 pieces of information and you can't convert them, that's not a client problem, right? What else? I got some more stuff I could talk about. Anybody else got any questions? Chuck, I see you listening intently. You got anything? So I think one of the things about circle prospecting too, because this is probably one of the better things for you all in your area and any newer agents on the call too that don't have any of your own listings right now. Circle prospecting around other agents' listings, this works just as well. But it's just calling and having that conversation with them, right? So if I'm talking to Marco, he's on. I'm gonna role play with you here for a second, man. You'll be the buyer, so you don't have to do anything too much.
Okay.
So we'll just walk through a normal circle prospecting call, right? So I'd be like, hey, so ring, 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 and then you pick up, right? Hey, Marco, Matt Kelderman, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, my man. I'm actually giving you a phone call. I listed Bob and Janet's place around the corner at 123 Main Street. Did you see the sign in the yard over there?
Yeah, I saw it this morning.
Yeah. We're just getting started with everything. And I promised them I'd give all the neighbors a call to see if they knew anybody who maybe from work, school, or church who was looking in the neighborhood. You know anybody who's looking to live over there?
No, but I know it's been popular around the area, so I'm sure.
Absolutely. And that's why I've been calling all the neighbors. I mean, what about you? How long have you lived in your place?
I was brand new, been a year.
You've been there a year? Awesome, man. What ended up bringing you to the neighborhood? What did you guys love most about it?
My business, a lot of growth in business. That's why.
Man. That's great. Well, you've only been in there a year, so I doubt you're thinking about selling. I'd love to be able to stay in contact with you, though, if that's okay. I don't know how everything went with your last agent. I don't want to step on their toes if you have a good relationship with them. But I've found that people are always interested in what's selling in their neighborhood. If I could send you something like that once a month without a bunch of junk mail, would that be interesting to you?
Sure. As long as you promise not to send me no spam mail.
I'll tell you what, man, you can unsubscribe the second I send you anything that isn't what we're talking about right now. I completely respect that. I can't stand those junk emails either. What's the best email address for you, Marco?
Yeah, m.toledo@kw.com.
Perfect, man. Well, I appreciate you taking a few moments for me today. You know, if I can ask just one more thing, if you hear anybody looking in the neighborhood or anybody's thinking about selling, you know, would you give me a call and let me know? I'd love to connect with them.
Sure, absolutely. What's your name again?
My name is Matt Kelderman. I'll actually, if you're a texter, I'll send you my contact card so you can save it directly to your phone.
Oh, that's better. I'm
Yeah. I'll just send that to you a text. I got your phone number right here, and this is your cell phone. You can receive text messages on this.
Yes, sir.
All right, perfect. So I'm just going to send you a text, my contact information, and we'll stay in touch. And I'll definitely give you a call when I get this thing sold and give you the good news.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
All right, Marco. I appreciate you. Have a good one. That's it. Right. And if you're new, you hear that and you're like, oh my God, he said so many things. No, I didn't. I legitimately just had a conversation with this dude. Whatever he said, I was just going with it with the intent of two things, right? Finding out a little bit more about him and then getting a secondary piece of contact information. I already got his phone number. I know where he lives. I'm circle prospecting. I wouldn't be talking to him if I didn't have those two pieces already, right? So the email address is the only thing I'm missing. So I don't even need to think about that other stuff. My sole intent is to find out if he knows anybody that's looking to move around because I want to find a buyer for this house. But that's a long shot, right? Most people aren't gonna be like, you know what? My buddy actually called me the other day and said he wants that house, right? That's very, very unlikely. That's the part of the conversation where you're gonna be like, oh, right? They're probably going to say no, they don't know anybody. And then me asking them the question about how long they've lived in the neighborhood and what they like most about the neighborhood. That question I love that question because what it does is it gets them talking about, because you'll be surprised. There'll be some people like, I don't like this neighborhood. It sucks. I liked it when I moved over here. Awesome. You're a seller lead now, right? Like, so the reality is I just want to find out anything about them. Marco told me he only lived in the house for a year. Don't be an idiot. When somebody tells you they lived in a house for a year, don't try and convince them to sell it. Most people are not selling after a year. Find a way to stay in contact with Marco so when he sells at year 3 or his buddy's looking to buy or whatever, you're the first person he thinks of. And then get that business a couple of years from now, right? And then finish it off with just making a promise, again, I was a bartender before I was in real estate. So my whole thing is just very genuine connection with everybody. So when he started talking about that and he's like, as long as you don't send me a bunch of spam, absolutely, man. I'll tell you what, if I send you anything, you unsubscribe because, I didn't do what I promised. And that's the part of this where you're just being transparent with everybody. And that's when I was talking about expireds earlier, just realizing they're another human being and the crap that annoys you annoys them too, right? So, and then the end of it, just telling him, hey, if you're thinking of anybody or if you know anybody, just think of me. Is it okay if I send you because now I want him to have my contact information. And you all should have, I'll show you exactly how mine looks. You all should have in your contact card a contact that's you saved. It looks like this, right? Mine's got my picture as the profile. It says Matt Kelderman, DFW, Texas Realtor. It's got every phone number that I can be reached on, every email address that I've ever had, links to all of my social media, my office address. I think that's it, right? And now I send this to them. Don't send somebody a picture of your business card. Don't send somebody a picture of your name attached to your phone number. You know why? Because now they got to go in their phone and they got to save it as a contact. And I get that that's not hard, but it's 2020. People don't want to be hassled by anything. So dumb the process all the way down. Make a contact card for yourself. And every time you get off the phone with somebody, you text that directly to them. Because you know what they have to do? They have to tap your contact card, hit save contact. And all of your information is in their phone now, right? And sometimes we make a joke about it. It's like, look, I'd love to send you my contact card so that way next way I call, you can avoid my phone call, right? So you'll know it's me and you can avoid me, right? Like, so whatever, who cares, right? Like just have fun with it. It doesn't matter. As you do this more, you'll start to feel the process on the other side of the phone. You guys will notice if you go back and watch this recording, I didn't look at Marco the whole time I was role playing with him, right? I can't do my phone role play staring at somebody's face because the whole thing is a feel in the conversation. I can't see his body language. I can't see any of it. I have tonality and I have his words. And that's all I have to work off of. So I look away from the person. I'm just because one, it forces me to focus on the conversation too. That's just maybe my personal thing. So find out whatever that is, but whatever it takes to be able to have those conversations, but realize I didn't really say that much in that conversation. Did he know anybody who's looking by? Is he a potential seller? Secondary piece of contact info. Those are my 3 goals on that phone call every time. So Any questions about that? And here's the thing is you can retrofit that script for every single lead source, right? Say you get a bunch, say you find an agent who's leaving your office or who's getting out of real estate and they're like, hey, look, I've got this data. I'm not going to give you my actual book of business, but I've got these 2,000 leads over here that are just in my database that I was never able to do anything with, right? And you go in there and let's just say it's 2,000 old dead buyer leads. You want to know the best text message for an old dead buyer lead? Hey, Chuck, Matt Kelderman here. You and I connected a while back about your home purchase. Did you ever find a great place or are you still looking? And guess what? I didn't even have to know Chuck before today to send that text message. I don't even care if Chuck and I have ever talked before, right? Because guess what? If I don't remember Chuck, I can guarantee he ain't going to remember me. Same thing with open houses, right? We deal with this a lot on our team because we'll get agents leave and we take all their leads and we dump them into a team pond account. And then we let those agents call through those leads. And every once in a while, I'll have them search by open house leads who have not been contacted in 6 months. And you just send a mass text message to all those people that would just say, hey, Chuck, Matt Kelderman here. You and I connected in an open house a while back and lost contact with you. Just wondering, did you ever find a house or are you still looking? Right? Like it's the same thing. It's the same thing every time. And here's the deal. I don't care if 20% of those leads tell me to go jump off a cliff. Because you know what I did? I just took 20% of those people and am able to categorize them now in a place that's no longer cluttering up my mind and my CRM with useless leads, right? Am I over on my time? How long do we have this? Is this for an hour? Do we have this on for an hour? Okay, good. I was like, I'll make sure I'm not like running over and chasing people off. So again, don't be afraid to use all the resources that you have, like text message, email, all of that stuff. Because a text message is a really effective way to check back in with, especially with a large bulk amount of people that might have the same type of lead source, if you're just trying to figure out if you should even follow up with them. Because here's the other thing, Ben Kinney says this, and if you guys, I don't know how long you've been with Keller Williams or how new you guys are. If you haven't heard of Ben Kinney in Keller Williams, you will eventually. Oh, you're welcome, Dana. There's definitely no doubt that he knows a ton about real estate, right? The guy's worth over $1 billion and is, number one team inside Keller Williams. But he says something really early on in my career that made a lot of sense for me. He's like, don't puke in your database. And we do this a lot as new agents. We just fill it up with busy work and it feels like you're doing something. And eventually you'll get to a point where you have real business in there that you lose track of because you're focused on the slop that's in there, right? So really don't worry about the volume of your leads in your database. Worry about the quality of them. If you right now already have a huge database, I at one point had 3,000 people in a CRM before I merged with Boomtown. When I merged into Boomtown in January of 18, so it'll be 3 years this January that I've had Boomtown, I only transferred about 475 of those 3,000 leads into Boomtown. I just had to do a really honest audit and realize that a lot of those leads I just uploaded in there just to feel like I was going to do something, right? Take a call list and you upload it in there, And the reality is nobody asked to be called by you. Most people didn't respond to any of my efforts, but I'm still following up with them a year later, or not following up with them. It's just a to-do that's just jamming up my whole system. So, we talk about categorizing your leads, and you'll hear in training a lot of A, B, and C leads. Let's talk about what that really means, right? Because generically, they're going to tell you A's are people who are going to buy 0 to 3 months. B's are people who are 3 to 6 months. C's are 6 months plus. Okay, that's great. But here's the deal. People don't always comply with the letter you assign to them in their timing of their life, right? So that system doesn't work. Here's how it works. There's actually a higher level of people that's very small. There's your A1 people. And here's how you categorize them. If you get picked up and you go to jail, who are you calling? That is your A1 list. It is a very small list of people. And if it's more than 3 or 4 people, I'd be shocked, right? Those are the types of people that when we talk about nurturing them over time, those are the types of people who are going to get extra touches. Those are the type of people who get invited to everything. Those are the type of people who, if you've got an extra $500 in your marketing budget at the end of the year, they get that $500 in some, right? That is, it's a very small group of people, and they're probably the people who sent you the most referrals in your career, right? The people who are really about growing your business, the people who tell everybody about you, the people who comment on Facebook posts and tag you, the people who are always on the lookout for your business, right? Those people at the very, very top of the list, and they always get special attention. Then you have your A's, right? And those are your hot people, the 0 to 3 months. There's no doubt about that. Those, so let's say what those, let's actually put that in real terms of humans. It's buyers who have a pre-qualification letter. Those are A's. Those are labeled as hot in your CRM every time, right? Sellers who have reached out to you and have asked for any type of not marketing information, but comps or anything like that, right? Any seller that you've had a conversation with where they've inquired about the value of their home, right? So if you're running home evaluation leads, which, slight side note, the market's really saturated with home evaluation leads. I probably wouldn't start with those. I would do something like new construction homes if you have a lot of those in your area, things like that. But if any type of seller reaches out to you that has an inquiry about that, right? Every single past client is an A, and they stay an A until they use another agent, right? And then you move them to a B and try and get them back. So don't get all butthurt when one of your clients goes with somebody else. Wait 2 or 3 years and go and get that business back. You know where they sold. You know where they moved, hopefully. At the very least in Texas, you can go look at the tax rolls. Update their address, continue to follow up with them, and try and get them on the next time, right? And just chalk that one up as a learning experience. That's generically some people who should be in your A's, just buyers, sellers, and past clients. There's going to be other people who come in there. The lead source doesn't really matter, but A's should only be serious people who are ready to do some work with you. Now I'm going to skip B's because B's are the hardest ones to define, and I'm going to go to C's, right? So C's should be anybody that has come in through any of your lead generation efforts, right? If you have 2 sources of contact information for them, I will tell you, if I could rank my ability to market to you, your phone number is the thing I want the most because I can call and text you. Your home address and your email address are kind of on par for me if you're a seller. If you're just a buyer, your email address comes after your phone number. And I'll get to why that's important in a second. But your C people are just anybody who you've had a conversation with, any lead that you've paid for, anybody who's come into an open house, anybody who you were circle prospecting with, and you had a decent enough conversation to put them in your CRM, right? Those are your C's. Your B's. This is the hardest part because what happens is B's move between A and C nonstop. Somebody can tell you that they're 6, 7 months out and they end up buying in 3 months. And you did everything right, but you just didn't get the business. That's going to happen for sure, right? Don't sweat those types of anomalies. What you're trying to avoid have happening is with you going too long without talking to the people that you've labeled as a B. So one, your follow-up for anybody that's in that middle chunk, which is going to be the bulk of your database, you should have some sort of quarterly follow-up. You're going to hear that in all of your training. It's one of the most generic things that we do in real estate that also is still, it's generic and it's 100% true. Quarterly touches are the best thing you can do. And I'll cover 2 quarters for you really easy. Okay. So as you're nearing the end, so I do all of my quarterly checkups. I do them so I do my Q2 checkup at the end of Q1. So I'm reaching out to them because I'm trying to time this for a May and a November check-in, right? So I check in with everybody in February because I want to check in to see if they're selling in the spring. So my first quarter check-in is in February for Q2. My Q2 check-in is really easy because I do that in May, and I'm essentially just calling them to see, hey, you got any big plans for the summer, right? How was your spring? You got any big plans for the summer? That's how I'm starting the conversation. And then I'm gonna try and morph it into real estate, right? My Q3 checkup is the hardest one because there's really nothing to talk about in August, right? The market's kind of shifting downwards. We're moving into the slower time of the year. Typically, COVID has done some different stuff in the market, but October is usually one of the slower months of the year, beginning of Q4. So when I call people in August, it's just a check-in to see how they're doing, how their summer was, whatever, right? And then I'm checking in about a week or a week and a half before Thanksgiving. And the reason I'm doing that is not anything to do with business. This one is solely, I very rarely take this one to business. I just ask them if they have any big plans for the holidays, right? So think about this. All your check-ins have built-in natural things of the year. In February, you're checking in. It's kind of businessy. Hey, just wanted to check in with you. We're getting ready to roll into the spring market. Inventory's already picking up. You know, just wanted to see if you guys have given any thought to selling. Or, hey, just checking in with you. I know you guys didn't buy last year. Interest rates are looking pretty good right now. Just wondering if you guys are having any thoughts of buying here in 2021. That's the conversation in February, right? The conversation in May is what we just talked about. Hey, just wanted to check in. Hope the school year was good if they have kids, right? Do you guys have any big plans for the summer? The summer part works whether they have kids or not. You got anything big going on this summer? You doing any traveling? And this is going to be even better next year, right? You doing any traveling? I don't know if you've been able to do anything since last March, right? That's your May check-in. Your August check-in is just something that's, like I said, hey, we're moving into the fall. How's everything going? How was your summer? That's the hardest one for me to have a flowy conversation. And then you're doing a holiday check-in about a week and a half before Thanksgiving. Don't do that check-in too close to Thanksgiving because people got other crap going on. They got family coming into town. You're not going to be able to have the type of conversations you want. You want to do that about a week and a half out before the real stress of the holidays sets in for people and they just start losing their minds for the next 60 days, right? So, and then realize that we're moving in a typical year, we're moving into a time of year where it's reasonable for people to not want to list, right? It's reasonable for people not want to sell during the holidays. So you're moving into that time of the year, that the end of Q4, where you really need to have that mindset of filling up your pipeline for the spring. So we give ourselves the excuse of like, well, I'm not going to call sellers because nobody's going to list in November. And you're right, they're not. So do what I talked about earlier. Have an honest conversation with them about that. Hey, Marco, I know we connected a while back, or hey, Marco, I know, timing doesn't make a lot of sense with the holidays coming up, and I'd be foolish for me to push you on that. But, if the right market presented itself in the spring, do you guys think you might be interested in listing as the weather warms up a little bit? Because here's the deal. Now, at the very least, that they need to be on your February follow-up. When somebody tells you they're listing in the spring, you never call them in March. You call them early February every time. Spring is March 1 in my mind. So I'm going to start calling you early February to find out when in the spring. So anytime anybody tells you we're selling next spring, February follow-up, right? First week of February on that Monday or Friday. So any questions on any of that stuff? Any ahas?
Where are you getting this from the MREA book or?
Yeah, I mean, there's some of it. I mean, a lot of this is just kind of lead generation tactics that I think have been regurgitated in a bunch of different places. The MREA is amazing. I've read it multiple times. And it shows you how to structure your business as you grow. And that's important. The where the MREA is lacking, what they're trying to fix is just that it's dated when it comes to some lead generation techniques, right? Internet marketing when they wrote that book, wasn't anything like it is now. Text messaging didn't exist, right? Yeah. Email has already went through a cycle where we've been like, screw email, and now we're back up on email again, right? I just took a $1.7 million listing from a one-page white mailer, right? Like,
the mailer, like, is that where you send an email and it has all the information?
Let me see if I can find one here. It's literally, so this is a little bit more involved, but this is one of my clients got one the other day. So what I'll do is, I don't really have a way to drop this in the chat. If you want, I'm going to give you guys my phone number right now. And this is my personal cell phone, 214-298-0772. So text me with your name. And if you want a copy of this letter, I'll send it to you. And keep my phone number if you have any other questions. I say this every time I do one of these trainings, and literally very few people take it up on me. That is my personal cell phone number. I will, if you take the time to reach out and ask a question, I will get back to you 100%. I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm not too busy to help agents. So but that letter, go ahead, Marco, sorry.
The mailer, I'm interested in learning a little bit more about the mailer because I've been meaning to, how effective is a mailer like those, dentist cards or body shop cards that are like a little bit bigger than normal, and they say, hey, we had our, we're doing this and that kind of thing.
Those are good. And look, here's the thing is, I will tell you, I have never had the, the wherewithal to farm a neighborhood long enough for it to be effective. Here is the issue for me with farming a neighborhood. And again, this is kind of market specific. So I do not want you guys to take what I'm about to say and run with it because I don't know your market, right? It is insanely expensive to farm a neighborhood here. One, the analytics that you need to look at for it to be effective, the turnover rate you need to have in it, the agent presence you need to have for you to even start attacking it, there's not many of them. And then just the sheer volume of mail that you have to send along with the size of the postcards, I feel that there are more efficient ways to use mail. Because here's the thing is, not everybody, a lot of people are sending those postcards. If you guys own a home, you get those postcards, right?
Yeah.
So you already see what people are doing and you kind of know, what they're doing. And it's not effective. It's not just because you're a real estate agent. You have to, mailing to a neighborhood is such a layered approach. You need to door knock. You need to hold open houses there. You need to mail to it. You need to call and circle prospect around it. You need to do all these things around that one farm area that the efficiency aspect of it starts getting very hard to manage and it's not scalable. This letter that we do, and like I said, all of you who text message me, I'll send you the screenshot. It legitimately is, we go, okay, so I'll tell you, the mailer is where you have to start spending money, right? There's some freer lead sources. This thing is going to cost not a ton of money, but there's some systems that are involved. So what happens is this letter goes out, the list that first off that's pulled, and I'll have to get with Brian who pulls the list on exactly the criteria, but we're looking for some very specific items. We want people who've been in their home for a certain amount of time. We want homes at a certain price point. We want homes that we know that there are a lot of buyers for, right? Plano, Texas, 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms between $350 and $450, right? There's a million buyers for that right now. So what we do is we find houses that match that criteria with owners who match that criteria. And then we send them this letter. And the letter says exactly what you think it says, right? Hey, we may have a buyer for your home. Call this number if you're interested in talking. Now the number, and here's the key to converting this, guys. The number gets fed to AnswerForce. AnswerForce is a call answering system. It costs a couple $100s a month. It makes sense for me to use that. There's probably other things that you guys could find that are more affordable. But the key is not missing the phone call. Because if you miss the phone call, they're not calling you back and they're probably not leaving a message and your conversion rate is going to go through the floor and you're going to be like, Matt's a liar. This lead generation sucks, right? What happens is they call that number. It immediately goes to AnswerForce. AnswerForce is they answer the call. They have certain set of questions they ask because this phone number is specific for this mailer. So they know when that phone number comes in, it tells them. And then they immediately send me, I have an app and I get an email that it says, hey, Marco Toledo just called. He's interested in talking about his home, wants to talk to Matt, right? Whatever information they got from the person. And then I wait about 10 minutes and I call back and I say, hey, Marco, Matt Kelderman, sorry I missed your call. My assistant told me you called about the house, right? It makes it look like I was just on another call. And in actuality, I just mailed that out and I'm feeding you to an answering service until people start calling, right? And every time you send one of those mailers out, you get 5 or 6, 10 phone calls. And then you go try and convert them like seller leads. And they're pipeline filler, right? And there's plenty of people in there who they don't want to talk to you or they don't call you, right? Like we do these right now. I've got a printer. We print these out ourselves, fold them. We now have a font that looks like good handwriting, and we print and if you have to write them, I did that for a long time. I used to burn up printers printing these things out. So you hand write them, you hand stamp them, and you mail them out. Yes, it's time consuming. I will also tell you as a new agent, guess what your value is to everybody except for your mom, right? Your time. When you're new, you don't have the knowledge. You don't have the 50,000 foot view that allows you to see all the angles that get the deals done. You don't have the ability to have all these conversations just really nimbly yet, right? You get there by saying right now, my value is time, and I'm going to take that time and I'm going to use it for all things real estate, right? Kids go to bed, get back up, do more work. You find yourself watching The Office on Netflix, turn it off and watch something on YouTube that's beneficial to your business that you need to learn about, right? Time just can't be the reason why you can't learn these things because it's just a BS excuse, honestly, right? Like there is we find time for all kinds of other stuff. I was listening to this podcast recently and this lady was talking about how she was like, if somebody asked me if I had 7 extra hours in my week next week, I would look at it and be like, no, you're insane. My week is destroyed. But the second your water heater goes out and your basement floods, I bet you can find 7 extra hours to take care of something, right? It's just, if somebody told you, I'll pay you $100,000 to dust your house, you're going to find a way to dust your house, right? Like, it's a priority issue. And don't let your mind tell you it's anything else. It is a priority issue every time, right? You are just prioritizing something else ahead of it. And for those of you that are parents, I'll dig the knife in you a little bit deeper. Every single time you get scared to pick up a phone call, every single time you get nervous about calling expireds, every single time you do that, you've allowed your own selfish fear of calling a stranger to override your desire to provide for your family. And that is the brutal truth, right? And allow that to spur you on. Whatever it is that drives you into this, that makes you want to make these calls, remember that person. Put a picture of them next to your computer. Put a picture of them next to the phone, right? Whatever that is, and realize that whoever the person is that's on the other side of the phone that's cussing at you, that doesn't want to talk to you, that's doing whatever, or that doesn't even exist yet, but you've made all this stuff up in your mind, every day that passes that you don't pick up that phone to call that person because you are nervous about what's going to happen, you are making an active decision to put your own fear and selfishness ahead of the people that are important to you, that are relying on you to do good, right? And if that doesn't get your juice going, I don't know what to tell you, right? I got a 6-year-old son, and I do everything for that guy, right? So, and that's what gets me going. So we've got a few minutes left here. I want to stop talking because I feel like I've probably given you guys even too much to really process. For those of you who have already reached out to me, I appreciate it. Again, I encourage everybody, send me a text, let me know what you want, and I'll send it to you, right? But I want to take the last few minutes answering any questions, giving you guys any information I can help with directly.
Matt, how are your numbers? Or are you a team, or I didn't catch the introduction?
Yeah, so I was an individual agent for 4 years, and then I started a team. I failed miserably as the CEO. I wouldn't say I failed miserably. I realized I'm not a CEO. I am now just a lead agent, director of sales type of role. I sell real estate, and I help train and mentor agents. So it was really nice.
Is that one of the biggest groups there you guys got over there in Texas?
Yeah, we're one of the larger. So we're part of an expansion model, first off. So like our group's kind of nationwide more than anything. Yeah. But the office that we're in is about 700 agents, and Brian and I and our team are consistently kind of in the top 3 or 4 in the office, and the top 3 or 4 in our group, our nationwide group. Like right now, our team is. I'm about to put my 6th pending on the board for the month, or my 5th pending on the board for the month, and I've taken 1 listing this month. So I personally do 5 or 6 deals a month.
Are those 60 sales a year? Are those yours or your team's?
Oh no, those are all me. Those are all individual deals, all personal deals that I work from beginning to end. Yeah, no, the team was already over 100 deals in August. So I'm the highest producing agent on the team. Me and another agent are kind of the two kind of engines of the team. And we've got a new agent who she's only been licensed a month. She's put 7 deals on the board this month. And like, she's not doing anything crazy, guys. And look, I know in real estate, we hear all these stories about like that one agent who closed like 50 deals in their first year. And you're like, all right, yeah, screw that guy. Right. Like I'm telling you, she was a waiter that was recruited by one of the other agents on our team. She came into the store. So Dana, that's a great question. She has door knocked during COVID. Yes. She is door knocking her neighbors and talking to them. We have this Smith that's called Mason Smith. It's a gender ambiguous account that it's our pond account, right? And so when we talk about the Mason Smith account, it's an account that we use on the team that just has all the overflow leads in it, right? Because again, you can only work so many leads at a time. So she's dove in there and pulled business out. She put a $700,000 new construction under contract that was from an agent that we let go 6 weeks ago because he wasn't doing anything. And she went in there and called him and got it under contract in like 2 weeks. So again, her situation is a little bit abnormal, but I will tell you her lead generation is not abnormal. It is all of the regular stuff. She's tapped in, in a very clearly, like she's tapped in a ton to her market. She speaks Spanish. She's Hispanic. She's went hard after Spanish speaking Hispanic clients, right? She just wants to serve her clients at a high level. And she just went super hard after a couple of specific niches and converted business that already. So
What's her name? Do you know
her
her?
name
What's her name?
is Johanna, Johanna Rodriguez. You find
You
her on
got her
Facebook.
contact? You got her contact?
Yeah, I will shoot me a text and I'll text it back to you. I'll text it back to you, Marco.
I did. I
Okay,
sent her a
perfect. As soon
text.
as we get off here, okay, I see. I've got 3 or 4 of y'all now. Okay, perfect. I don't have yours, Marco. 214-298-0772.
786.
No, 214-298-0772.
Is that yours or
That's me. That's
two,
me. I just don't have your
that
text message yet. 298.
214-298-0772?
Yeah. And I saw Dana's question. How do you train your agents? That's a super loaded question. Not because of anything other than that it's just a lot, right? There's a lot of accountability. Part of the reason agents join a team is for the accountability, right? Most of us are coming from 9 to 5 type of jobs where we didn't have to build every single thing ourselves, and we're just not used to that. So, you know, a lot of accountability, a lot of especially for the first 90 days. I will tell you, Brian and I run a meritocracy, meaning you come in, you perform, you move up the bench quick. You don't, you're sliding right back the other way. It's not there's no part of our business that is just favoritism or any of that stuff. Winners win and get more opportunity, and people who don't get opportunity taken away. We've got some agents on our team who they don't get any Facebook leads. They don't log their numbers. They can't stay caught up with their to-dos. We've pretty much shut off every team resource for them. We've got other agents on the team, like this letter campaign, that will write specific letter campaigns for them, right? For their neighborhoods, those types of things. So, but you have to hold accountable to the standards. So we have training every single week. Brian, who is a high producing agent he's moved mostly in the CEO role, is always available to the agents. I personally train our top 20%. So they get trained with me once a week individually. Because training gets really nuanced over time, right? The reason Keller Williams is awesome is because it has amazing training to get you to a certain point, but then it's just on the job experience, right? It's going out and getting your teeth kicked in and learning like, oh, I'm not gonna do that again, right? Or hey, I need to make sure next time. Like I learned something yesterday. I sold a house in a town that I've never sold in, that now when my client goes to resell this house, he has a mandatory charitable donation of 0.5% to the school district when he sells. It was a $450,000 house. So this guy just found out later, like when he sells this house for probably $550, that he's going to have to pay $3,000 to the schools. And he's like, look, the capitalist in me hates that, but the father in me loves it, right? But I didn't know that. And we found out the closing table yesterday. Wouldn't have made a difference, but it sucks to find out that you just cost your client $3,000, you know, down the road somewhere. So I don't feel guilty, but I now know that, right? And everybody who sells out there, I'll be like, hey, make sure you know. So, but to kind of answer your question a little bit more pointedly, Dana, there's so much training available with the right teams. It's just, you know, they're all different though. And again, if you're new, there should be plenty of stuff that you can glean from Keller Williams, you know, to start with before you really need to go deeper. But I think as a whole, the industry is moving towards the high performing individual agent or like smaller groups and teams, right? It's not that new agents can't get in and get started up, and I don't want to imply that at all. I just think like as resources and efficiency becomes more important, doing it by yourself is going to become less important to people, right? And it's just gonna be about your bottom dollar. That's ultimately why I joined a team. My goal is $30,000 a month. That's what I want to make every month, right? And I was not going to do that on my own with all the expenses. There was no way I was going to be able to do that. So in order to reach that, which I have not consistently gotten there, I've had $30,000 months, but I'm not making 30 grand every month. I needed somebody to come in so I could focus on what I was good at. And that's what we all realize eventually, is that to do the real estate sales and the real estate business building side effectively by yourself, it's a lot of work and a lot of time. And it's usually skill sets that most people just don't have, that they just don't cross over to both sides of that. So I will hang on if anybody wants to stay on. We are officially over our time. And so I don't want anybody to feel like they have to stay on and listen to me ramble anymore. But if anybody has some specific questions, I've got another 5 or 10 minutes before I have to hop off. So I'd be happy to stay on and if anybody has anything else. But I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me and the interaction from everybody. And I'll get back to everybody's text messages here in just a little bit.
Thank you very much.
You're
Thanks,
very
man.
welcome, Michelle. I
Appreciate it.
appreciate you. Marco, you too. I
Thank you.
appreciate the feedback and the interaction. Chuck, yeah, thank you, man.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, okay. Let me
Hey,
get
Matt.
you. I'm gonna write it again one more time.
Yeah. And then I got you,
214,
Chuck.
correct? Got it.
Well, go ahead, Marco.
No, just your 214-298-0772, correct?
Yes, sir. Yep. And I got you now. Yep, I just had yours come through. What were you gonna say, Chuck?
Do you have a YouTube channel set up for yourself?
Well, yes, actually we have one. So our YouTube channel is Undoubtedly Dallas. Brian and I, that we run it together. We do all of our video stuff we do together. I've got my own YouTube channel that me and my son might start doing some corny crap on there, but from a real estate perspective. And so you can see what we're doing for the business. You can go subscribe to that. And then the podcast that we do is called The Only Real Estate Podcast Worth Listening To, which we know it's not, but the name is funny. And so we like it. You can go follow that you can follow us there on YouTube and on Facebook, and you can see the show every week.
Okay.
So, because it's a lot of what we do right here, man. It's just talking about how the business is kicking our butt every day, and we just talk about real world stuff. So, all right. Anybody else?
What about prospecting on condominiums? Now we have 15,000 condominiums between Orange Beach and Gulf Shores.
I sell a ton of condos and townhomes here in Dallas. And I think there's two things, right? Like condos are a great niche. And for you guys, probably for a different reason. A lot of first-time home buyers buy condos here because it's what's most affordable. But there's just certain requirements, right? Like a lot of condos can't go FHA if they're high rental areas. So
Right.
There's some really good niche stuff that you can do. And then treating each one of those condo towers like its own little personal subdivision is the way to look at those. Each tower is its own neighborhood, right? Each community is its own neighborhood. And treating them like that, I think, is the way to attack them. Those are places where doing a mailer might be very effective.
So I have a condo that I own. It's in a rental program, and I get probably 6 postcards a month from different people, and then some personalized letters.
So I would say if you're gonna do something in there, personalize it, right? Start with the building you live in, and everybody should do this with the neighborhood, because the people are gonna be more liable to work with you knowing that you're a neighbor, because they're gonna assume you know everything about the place, and if you don't, figure it out, right? But I think you're gonna have a lot better traction because you're gonna be able to say, hey, look, I live in the building, I know everything about the building, I know all this stuff, and if you're looking to sell, why would you use somebody who doesn't live here, right?
Exactly.
And then you can market to buyers in the same way. You can run specific ads for, when you're running those Facebook ads, run them for whoever the hell is the demographic is buying those things, right? Whatever that is, if it's retired people, if it's new construction, if it's people are going to Airbnb it, whatever, right? And target the ads towards that type of buyer. And because then what happens is then your marketing to the place comes. I have 4 buyers who are looking for condos exactly like the ones that are in our building. I have nobody who is selling right now. If you're interested in selling, if you're looking at unloading your rental property, right? And don't mail them, especially if you have a lot of out-of-state owners and they use it as vacations or rental properties. Don't mail it to the unit. Go to the tax rolls and mail it to where their address they pay their taxes from. Right? So you're hitting the real owner of it. But yeah, that's a great way to attack condos, because you can't really do open houses or anything, right? It's really all phone. It's really all calling. And if you live in the building, last thing you want to do is start cold calling people you're going to be in the elevator with, right? So your only real option is mail. And then you start taking some business in there, and then you use the mail to brag on the business, and then it becomes really effective. Mud in the tires part is going to be getting your first couple of pieces of business in there. But if you represent a buyer in there, frame that up too. Make it sound like, you just did business in there. Don't make it sound like it was a buyer. Just be like, hey, sold a condo in the building.
Yeah, right now I have a representing a client for a condo down there. And so now I could prospect other clients in the same, complex. So
that's the way to do it. I mean, look, I don't do mail marketing for my buyers, but I market my buyer closings as much as I market my seller closings.
Okay.
From a social media perspective and everything. And if you guys want, for those of you who are still on, Go. I'm just Matt Kelderman. My name's right there on Facebook. If you want to, one, you can friend me and I'll gladly accept the friend request. But so much of my Facebook is personal or private. I mean, excuse me, public. And you'll see how I run my Facebook, right? And I could go on for an hour about how people use their social media. It's actually what I train more on than the lead generation stuff. But my social media is a complete commercial for my entire life. You know everything about me, right? If you go just look at the last couple of posts I have, my girlfriend posted we're in a relationship, so we went Facebook official, and I posted some stuff about my son and his lineage because he's adopted. And those are things that have nothing to do with business, but everybody knows. You can just go read the comments and you can see how it's worked over the years. Everybody knows my kid. People I've never met that live in other states are like, I freaking love your kid, right? Because of just how, and the way I share my life. So if you want to go see that, that's another, it's just another layer to my lead generation. It's how I market to my sphere. It's how I keep people in my world. And to tie that in, it's the same thing, Chuck, you know, that's where you show people who you are and the success you have. And over time, you don't have to tell them anymore.